Hello everyone and welcome back to Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. Prowler only. Last time we took on the last two of the classic Generation 2 Elder Dragon trio, Teostra and Chameleos. This time we'll be delving into more in-game threats and taking on some rare species of the Rath duo. First one is going to be Silver Rathalos. Now you can't actually fight these in high rank, though for cats I'll get into it later, but they don't really give any good gear. We'll go ahead and take the quest to have the Cursed Cloud, not the Cursed Cloud, it is the Celestial Squall equipped. You can also use the Incarnating Greed. Same thing for Teostra, just depends on preference. I do believe Cutting actually has some better hit zones though. Either way, I'll go ahead and head out. Alright, so Silver Rathalos. Normally on the Verdant Hills he will spawn in this den here, unless there's like a random quest where they set it for a different spot, but I doubt that. He's not normally over in here. Wings are going to be a very consistent hit zone. I do believe they're at a 44, so just under the weak spot value, but since we're not using weakness exploit, we don't have to worry too much about that. However, the back is actually weak spot at 55, which is really nice. The head is hard, the neck I believe is also hard, though maybe slightly less so, but it does take some decent elemental damage, so if you do want to break the head, it is feasible if you do have water element. However, I do believe just going through the wings and getting the back is going to be better in general, especially considering you'll be getting a lot more topples just in general from the air, especially from the wing breaks, and then of course you can just get regular air staggers as well. And that's going to be important because Silver Rathalos just loves to fly. This is a very fly-heavy monster, and one of the few fights where I might recommend you going out of the way to get Flash Bombay. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to do it without. I've done it without plenty of times, but it's a bit different whenever I'm commentating here. It can be useful. You might be missing a lot of them, but the ones that you don't miss do give you a lot more chances, and it would be more helpful for the hyper variant, which we'll go after later. But for now, this is just the regular version, which is a lot slower than the hyper monster version or the hyper variant of it, so we don't have to worry too much about it. Scariest thing is that he does have a lot of AoE. Some of his fireballs do explode in the 4 quadrants. I've said this, I believe, about Dread Queen. When she charges hers up or just is enraged, she'll shoot out ones that will kind of explode in small 4 quadrant sections. Silver Rathalos is of course going to have them a little bit larger, but he has a bit more sequences that he has to do before he actually gets to it. This is one of them. He'll do the Talon Dive down, and then he'll have to do the Charge Fireball after. He will always do that move after that, and he can always do just a regular charged one, but it has a much slower animation. So you'll be able to prepare for that a lot more. But if you're trying to dodge that downwards Talon swipe, you might be in a bad spot to actually dodge it. I'm not quite sure, and I'm going to speak about the hyper variant here because it's the one I've thought a lot more. I'm not quite sure how you're really supposed to fight it consistently without Adept. With Adept, it's a bit easier because you can actually, trust your evasion a little bit better. But for other weapons, it's not as easy. There's a Fireball. The Fireballs that he does just standardly as well have a fairly large hitbox. And they also have a wind press hitbox as well, which can throw you off. It's very dangerous to actually dodge into that 4 quadrant fireball, just because it is somewhat inconsistent. Really depends on the terrain and where he actually aims it, because sometimes he'll shoot it forwards, which you'll be hit by the first one, but most of the time he will shoot it a little bit before you, so the first one will explode, and then the other ones will explode after. Safest thing if you want to get an Adept on it is just to wait on the backside and then try to dodge into the last explosion. You'll have to wait for it. Usually when the second or third one explodes, you can maybe trust it a little more. And one of the easiest consistent ways to do it without Adept dodges is just running backwards. You can actually run away backwards from the... I'm surprised he is leaving so soon. You can run away backwards from the Talon Dive if you're not too close, and then you can just go straight into running away from the Charged Fireball. It should give you a chance. Normally he moves to this area. Again, I'm very surprised he moved that early, because normally he doesn't. Normally it's like 5 minutes at the very least, and I don't think my cats hit him with a dung bomb. I'm not sure why they would have, and I did not see the effect. Alright, he's going to tackle there. Tackles are instant, so you cannot feel safe if he's looking straight at you, but he has a whole slew of other attacks that you don't really want to stand in the way of, so it's just a good idea if he's looking at you to get ready to dodge something. Here's an air tackle. He can either land that on the ground or stay in the air and turn around. Get a wing break, which is really nice. Just going to go ahead and pierce up through here. Even if we're not hitting the back, that's fine. I do believe the wings also take some decent water damage. When you do break the head, the water damage does go down, but it takes it from like a 20 hit zone to, I think, 55 or 45, something like that. Somewhere in between that at the very least. Comes a Charge Fireball. Remember, you saw the Talon dive downwards, and then he did the charge one, so you know that was fixing to come out. It's a very simple fight once you get used to it and you have the tools to dodge it. But the hyper variant is the one that's really going to keep you on your toes. And I don't want to talk too much about that because that's going to have its own portion. And eventually we'll have to fight them both together in the arena along with Gold Rathian. Or fight both of them together, if I can say that correctly. Landed there, so we'll be able to punish. Comes a tackle. We're going to wait and see what he does. He just goes into the air, which is nice for us. We'll dodge into this fireball. He's going to swoop around. This is the same thing Dread King does. It's a bit annoying. It does throw off your camera a little bit. And you don't want to run out of too much space. Those fireballs really aren't that big right now. They will get larger later. And I want you to prepare for the hyper variant more than this variant, because this one doesn't terribly unlock anything special, and you really only have to fight him twice for anything important. Alright, he dives down, so we'll go for the back there. Dodge to the right. He's going to go ahead and fireball, so we'll be able to punish once more. Easiest thing you can punish is the enraged fireball jump back that he does as soon as he gets enraged. It's not always consistent, especially if he's faster in the hyper variant. Again, I'm going to try to stop talking about that because it is going to be more important for later, but you have to prepare for that. You don't want to get too comfy with this variant. It's just a little ground flamethrower, or downwards flamethrower, not a ground flamethrower. So you do have to be careful if you're rotting under him, because he can pull that out and you're not completely safe. So it's not a thing where you can just run in under him and try to stay there. He's doing this attack. He might land. He is not landing though, so we'll just go for a couple of attacks here. He's going to do a downward swipe. Go for the back here, at least attempt to. As you can see, we've already gotten both wings broken, so it shows we're at the very least dealing some decent damage, though I do believe they're actually quite a bit brittle compared to other monster parts. Couple of boomerangs here. He's going to tackle forward. I don't remember exactly how much health this one has. I want to say it's like 11,000, which isn't really that much, especially if you've already done the deviant quests, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Got a little greedy there. However, we have plenty of time after that, but again, don't get too used to that. I was thinking he was actually doing the homing talon dive from the air, like whenever he goes up really high, but he didn't. Whenever he does that, you're pretty safe to actually get a mega boomerang off there, and I'll try to show that if we get the chance. If it's just a matter of me noticing the move actually coming out or not. All right, he's doing the reposition into the charged flame or fireball. It's not a flamethrower because it's not continuous. Comes a roar. We'll dodge into that. Didn't rage in the air, so we won't be able to punish that with a mega boomerang. Curious where he's going now. He's just doing some charges, maybe. The fireball. Actually get a flinch. I think that was my Palico, I would assume, because I didn't actually hit anything there. Keep going for the back here. Throw one out that's uncharged. That way we don't take damage from that. He is doing some tackles into the air. He's doing an air tackle. This is a really easy one if you're used to quick turns to actually punish. Unless you do mess up your inputs, which I do quite a bit. All right, there's a reposition. Into the kick. We're just going to run backwards and we should be safe. Again, that attack is not scary. As long as you are not greedy during it, you should be fine. It's just that you want to prepare to absolutely dodge that at all costs, because it's going to be seen a lot more later on. All right, there's a landing talon dive. We're safe. He won't do the charge fireball after that. It's just the aerial one. There's a tackle with a bite at the end. That would have end lag we could punish, but we weren't close enough to him. If you're dodging it, you're safer. That fire bite is also going to be a lot larger later on, so don't get too comfortable being too close to it, because it will punish you later on if you get too used to that. All right, he's repositioning quite a bit. He's just doing another air tackle, so that's fine with us. We'll try to get some damage off here. Looks like he's either leaving or readying a talon dive. He's just leaving. I think normally, depending on how much damage, he'll just go into the next area over here, thankfully. So we don't have to jump too much. However, he can sometimes go to that area, which isn't great. I do believe he tries to eat there. Doesn't look like he's doing it quite right now, though. He was dashing forward, so maybe he'll just kind of meet us here. I will try to get this off. He's running in a zigzag. Please stop. Never mind. As you can see, the damage isn't that threatening, but you want to try to get used to not getting hit from this monster. Again, I really want to prepare you for the hyper version, because the hyper version is really the one you're worried about the most. Charge fireball. We're out of range on it, though. It's probably doing another one or just a regular one. He is exhausted, which is great for us. He's actually not shooting out any fire at all. However, we do have to reapply our buff, so we will not have a mega boomerang to punish here. But that's fine, though. Legs, I think, also take okay damage. That's really where you're going to be fighting if you're using a melee weapon. For us, we do have the advantage of being able to reach the back, but for those Blade Master weapons, you will attack the legs to try to get a topple. Unless you absolutely want to go for the head, hammers might actually try to break the head because they do get KOs from it. But it's not always probable. I'm not sure. really just depends. It's similar to Crystal Beard and just regular Uragon. Uragon's chin actually breaks pretty easily, but Crystal Beard's takes a long time. I believe actually requires blunt damage. I know I've tested that before, but I don't remember it exactly. We'll go ahead and throw this Mega Boomerang out here because he enraged. It's going to do a reposition, but that's actually going to punish him. Really good. We got some good hit zones there. This is not a fun area to fight. At the very least, the camera is not zoomed in like it is in Freedom Unite. So that's good, but it is still a bit of a cramped area. Okay, don't want to fight this here. I want to try to get away from this wall. You can reposition good. Have a little bit more area. I thought he was roaring for some reason, so I slid my button over, or my thumb over the A button, and then went straight for the dodge, which actually threw a boomerang out, or attempted to. I don't think I would have actually dodged it. Maybe I would have, but it's not that important. We didn't take hardly any damage from it. 2 boomerangs here. We'll dodge to the right. Wait and see what he does. He's tackling away. Okay, going back into the air though, so he's not leaving. Just gonna wait this out. You really want to just get used to waiting things out too, because you can very easily be punished if you're not used to it. There we go. Got an air topple from that. Actually hit the tail. So that was pretty funny. You don't always have to go for the wings, though. The wings are what's taking some decent damage, and they're fairly large as well. So even if you are missing the back for them, it's okay. All right, a couple of boomerangs here. He's doing a homing talon into the charge. Don't quite want to apply big boomerangs yet until he's finished doing his thing. Okay, now we should be good. Should have enough cooldown between attacks. We go once more. Again, he really likes to use that attack a lot. And again, it's not scary here, but it does get scary. Very scary. And honestly, at some points, once you get used to it, just quite a bit annoying. Looks like he's probably leaving now because he's just completely ignoring us. I want to make sure he's not eating. I don't think he is. So now we can head out here and chase him. So we have followed him. However, once again, we don't have enough gauge. And this might be where you would rather have the Soul Seer weapon, because you do get extra gauge from it. The issue is that you're dealing 10% less damage with your Mega Boomerangs. And I once again believe that blunt hit zones are just slightly worse. And they might be the same, but the extra raw on this weapon does help out a bit. Even if you are having to deal with a little bit of negative affinity, you have to offset with your critical skills. All right, wait, see what he does. Good. Throw one out. Nice. Getting a lot of air topples. Don't get too used to this. It's not going to happen too often, but you do want to take advantage of it. Okay, there's a fireball backwards. We'll actually throw a charged one out in case he does reposition and runs into it. That's the thing. You can kind of trust him to get really close to you, so you can just kind of shoot boomerangs out and get some hits on them. Even if they're not on the best hit zone, they're still going to be dealing some damage with that element, because he is fairly weak to water. I'm going to dodge to the left here, I think. All right, there's a bite, so we'll be able to punish that. Dodge to the right once more. When he's on the ground, he's the safest because he doesn't have anything too terribly large AoE-wise. So you can actually just kind of punish anything he does. And this is why you might want to actually use flash bombs, because, and if you're a hunter, absolutely bring flash bombs here. As many as you can carry and craft, because it's just going to cheese the fight so much easier. Once he's in the air, it's just a bit of a tough time, and especially if you're using melee weapons, it's even more difficult because the tail is just not that great hit zone-wise. I believe the tail tip is softer than the actual, I touched into that, but the tail tip is softer than the base of the tail, so you will be going for that a little bit more, and it is the one that's closest to the ground, so I guess that's good. However, it's still not amazing damage, and you would rather have a ranged weapon for this. Ideally, you're probably playing a gunner weapon, that way you can still use flash bombs, because if you're not getting too much gauge, and the flash bombs for cats are just so inconsistent since they take so long. If they hit the monster, they might explode early and knock you on your back, which is also a bit annoying, and the damage they deal is very minuscule if you actually hit them. And if not, it might just hit the monster right and under it and actually not activate the flash, which is a little sad. Dodge here. I understand where they might have wanted to be a little bit more cautious about having or giving a weapon infinite flash bombs, so long as you can actually, get enough gauge for them. But for the actual added benefit you get from it, it's not that useful. Again, this is probably one of the only hunts you would actually desire them for. And you still have to give up Go Fight Win for it, which isn't particularly great, but it's also not the end of the world if you just really get used to not getting hit by it. Backwards fireball, punish his wings here. Very nice. And charging is definitely something you want to do here. Here comes the homing attack. And, ooh, wait, no. He didn't fly backwards there. Normally, he will fly backwards to the spot. And I'm sure if you fought Rathalos before, you've seen it before. So I'm going to say we probably threw him into rage mode, and that's what canceled that. But normally what he'll do is he'll fly back to the spot and either land or come down, not necessarily land, but slowly descend. Or he will do a fly backwards attack and then kind of swoop back to the original position where he started the homing dive. It's not that scary. If you've already dodged the homing dive, you should actually be out of range for it. It's a little close for comfort on that charged fireball. All right, one more boomerang out here. Did a nice air topple. Don't have quite enough. Our favorite Bullfango is aiming a charge at us, so we do have to be careful about that too. We don't want to be put in a bad situation. The damage Bullfango deals is not great, but he can knock you out of Mega Boomerangs, which is very wonderful. And dodge this fireball here. Very good. Does another one, hits you, so we do not have the full Go Fight win buff, but that's fine. We're at 15 minutes. If you are very optimized with it, you might be able to get sub 15, or not quite sub 15, but sub 20 for sure. And if you're not as optimized with it, then 20 minutes, 25 minutes should be what you expect. I think we might be getting probably sub 25. Because again, normally these take a bit longer when I'm trying to just commentate on it. If I'm really focusing, maybe sub 20. Sometimes you can get them limping at sub 15 and then take the little bit of extra into 15 minutes to actually get them. I'm thinking of the hyper variant though. I did a lot of tests on the hyper version of the hunt, but not really too many on this. And again, surprisingly, he actually has very similar health. That's not particularly normal for a hyper monster. Normally, the hyper monsters get a lot of bloat health. It's a little instant turnaround fireball, so you can't feel too comfortable after some attacks. That's why you want to play the waiting game a little bit more. However, I'm getting a little impatient. Dodge into that. Wait and see what he does here. Does the close range flamethrower once more. We can punish this fireball though. He's doing his homing attack. No, he's not. He's going way too far into the air. So he's hungry. I don't remember exactly. I think he can eat multiple spots. However, I could be wrong. He might be going back to that skinny area. He's not. He's going down here to where we fought Chameleos. All right, and since he is exhausted, we might be able to punish this. I don't know how long he's been standing here, though. If he turns around, this should still hover somewhat in the back area, which is good. Be able to punish him a little bit more like this. Throw an uncharged one out, start dodging. He's limping forward, so that means he is fixing to die, thankfully. So if you have a trap here, you can place it and catch him. However, I don't have traps. Don't really need them. I guess you could forego Go Fight Win, but we really haven't been getting that many gauge or that much gauge to actually use traps and stuff on. And traps would be useful here, especially if they're on your Palicos. They might not be the most consistent since he does move around fairly often, but when you do get it, it does give you a nice reprieve from the air time that he has, and also just helps you get some Mega Boomerangs off when you even wouldn't normally be able to while he's on the ground. Because while he is easier to manage on the ground, he can still do enough things that leaves it so you can't actually punish him. Here's the flyback attack that I was talking about after the homing dive. You should normally be able to get a Mega Boomerang off there, and after you, again, dodge that, we actually get the tail cut, surprisingly, but after you dodge the main homing dive, that little attack that he does there, and there we go, sub 20. If I can speak here, though, once we dodge that attack, you can actually punish it because it doesn't move that far forward at all. I think it's to bait you to move with him as he flaps backwards from that. And then as he comes back in for it, it's intended to hit you. But if you're a ranged weapon, you're probably just going to stay where you're at. Especially with Mega Boomerang's range, you can just stay where you dodged the original Talon attack. And then just kind of get it at him and hover it either in his wings or his back to maybe get a topple. Either way, that was Silver Rathalos. We've carved him up and I'll meet you back at base. Alright, we are back. We'll go ahead and switch to the current thunder weapon that I have unlocked. Now, I actually have the best thunder weapon. I will not be using it because I haven't technically showed the monster that I have gotten this from. If you've played the game before, you probably know it's the White Fatalis or the Old Fatalis weapon, depending on who you are or what you want to call it. I'm not going to be using this. This is the best thunder weapon. However, I want to wait until I actually show off White Fatalis before I actually use the weapon. You probably don't care, but it's just kind of a weird thing that I want to stick to. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and switch back to our Geocris anchor, if I can find it. There it is. And we'll have our thunder weapon equipped. And you can probably tell that Gold Rathian is weak to thunder element instead of water element. This is a bit odd, as normally the Raths are weak to thunder, as in the case of Dread Queen and Dread King. and just the regular ones as well. I'm not sure what the colored variants are. Week 2, I want to say probably dragon as well. It's probably not that different. Either that or it's like fire and, or not fire, certainly not fire, but ice and maybe just ice. But the metal Raths are actually different. And as you can see, once we did the Silver Rathalos quest, we actually unlocked the Hyper Silver Rathalos quest. I won't be tackling that today. I've said plenty about it already. I do want to give it a bit of time to let the Raths breathe, because there's actually a quest line here that's trying to unlock, and it's going to cause a bit of burnout if we take them all on at once. So I'm just going to go ahead and take on Gold Rathian. And if you notice, I actually did use a voucher. I have really started to appreciate Hurler a lot more, and I really actually want it. And we have plenty of vouchers anyway, since I hardly use them at all. So this is going to be really nice. And if you just save them while you're leveling up through the game, you should have plenty by end game. Either way, we'll head out. All right, our friend Gold Rathian. This fight is going to go much smoother because she is the queen of the land, and that means she's going to be on the ground all the time, or most of the time. She still has some flying attacks, but they're not that scary. This is probably her scariest attack because it is a bit quick and deceptive. That little flame bite she does before the tail sweep actually applies a little bit out of where it actually looks like it applies. So you do want to dodge that, and the flame bite just regularly is also much larger than regular Silver Rathalos. It's triple fireball. Hit zones are the same here, so you're still just going for the back and you'll clip through the wings. You'll break the wings. You may not actually break the wings in the air as often here or get as many air topples because she'll just be on the ground, but that's fine with us because it's a lot easier to punish. Comes a fireball, so we'll get off to her side here, throw a couple of boomerangs here, and then we're going to wait for her to attack. She does do instant charges a lot more, and she might actually try to do the triple combo. It's actually just a charge into a tail flip. So same rules apply. If she's looking at you, just move off to the side and make sure you're not going to get hit by that combo if she does do it. She doesn't always do it, but it's better to be off to the side anyways, so that's fine. There's an aerial swoop downwards into the land, which is good for us. Go to the left. She's actually tackling here, so we'll wait and see. Turned around pretty quickly. Normally, she'll kind of do that in a triangular formation. I did dodge into that little 4-quadrant fireball. You can tell that's a lot more similar to Dread Queens because they're smaller, but they come out in threes. I do believe Dread Queen can do the charged one into a very large singular one, but it's such a long telegraph that you don't really have to worry too much about it. Comes the flip. The flips can be a bit scary if they're the wide sweeping ones, but the regular standard flips aren't that scary. She'll usually reposition like Dread Queen, or yeah, I guess Dread Queen does it too probably, but Dread King and Silver Rathalos, they'll do that little side flap, and then she'll wait a second, I believe. I don't think she can pull it out immediately. I might be replacing that with the Hyper variant, which can actually do it pretty quickly. So as long as you wait a bit, you can actually just outrun the hitbox, and even then, if you just run for a bit and then dodge, you should position it, or at the very least get an adept dodge on it. Keep going for the back here. There are 2 more out. We'll dodge to the right. Here comes the upwards flip. Bit scary because she did run into a wall there, so it can actually make her collide and push a little bit faster than she normally would, like that. Doing triple fireballs here. I'll actually try to dodge into this one. That way I can get some distance, because it is a bit of an awkward spot to be in. All right, one more boomerang out here. And I haven't practiced this hunt as much. The only time I've really practiced Gold Rathian in G rank is the double hyper quest where you have to fight her. But recently I really haven't practiced her much other than that at all, if I can speak here. All right, so she's doing this. That's not great because she did throw us into an adept dodge. I should have soothing rolled there, especially because it was 3, so I had no reason to not to, because I felt that coming on, and we're going to do it here. That's really the only attack she does from the reposition, so you can always assume it's going to happen. All right, boomerang here. So you will see me be a bit sloppier here because I'm not as used to it. All right, there we go. Might actually be able to punish that with a Mega, but that's fine. If I did get the adept dodge there, that would be a guaranteed punish with a Mega Boomerang because she always flies back and you don't even have to worry about a fireball there. There's a landing tackle. Fine. Try to stay at a good range here. We're going to back away from that flame bite. I could have applied piercing, but I wanted to just wait and see what she was going to do after. I definitely have a lot of muscle memory from the hyper variant, so I am playing it maybe a little bit safer than I should be. Here comes a landing tackle. Go for a couple there. Not really hitting anything great, but that's fine. And if you don't get out of the way in time, I really am just running into these fireballs too much, but if you don't get out of the way in time before she tackles, you're going to want to try to dodge into it if you're using an adept weapon. If you're not using an adept weapon, if you think you can get out of the way, try, but if not, just hold your block because it should still eat some of the damage. It's not a guard app attack, so at the very least, you'll be taking somewhat less. I don't even know exactly what the damage reduction is for cat guards, but it's certainly not amazing. Looks like she's finally leaving, so that's good. All right, next area. Thankfully, we have a really nice battle theme for this, and it's kind of weird. Like, the unique themes are nice, but it is also just nice to get a break from the constant deviant type themes, where the theme changes depending on the area, because there are a lot of nice area themes in this game. There are some just kind of bland ones, but Jungle's always really nice, and Ruined Pinnacle's really good, Jurassic Frontier. Verdant Hills can get a bit grating because it is very repetitive, but you won't be hearing that too often, especially in in-game, because they don't take you back there very often. Sometimes you'll see it quite a bit, but for now we're fine. Shouldn't actually be seeing it again for the Metal Wraths because they don't appear there anymore. Two more. I'm going to actually hold block here. She's doing a fireball, which is good. I would assume she's doing a tackle there, and she didn't, so we're great. All right, dodge into the roar. Go ahead and get a Mega Boomerang ready. She's going to go into the air. She might reposition before I actually get this out. It's normally what she'll do in the Hyper variant, so don't always guarantee that it will hit. Should be at the very least a couple hits off, but maybe not always. That was a bit scary. I shouldn't have actually attacked there, but it's fine. Didn't expect that to come out. She has a lot of instant attacks, so you really do have to be careful. It's where good positioning is really going to reward you for this fight. All right, two more boomerangs here. And just a lot of preemptive planning because it's not reactionary at all. All right, dodge this. Punish with one. Need to reapply piercing, so we're going to look for that opening. If I can recommend something, while she's repositioning, she will get to a specific side of you, and she'll kind of stay there for a bit before she even stops to do the attack. So if you run diagonally, you might have a safer chance of actually getting out of the way when she does stop, so you can actually move. You still want to combo that with a dodge if you are using Adept, because that is still safer, because lots of iframes are really nice. But if not, running diagonally is usually a safe bet as long as you're not completely disoriented by the angle she flies in at, because that can throw you off pretty badly sometimes. All right, got big boomerangs up. I'm going to throw a boomerang out here. I'm going to try to do a quick turn and catch her on the fall from her little aerial tackle. Dodge to the left. Bit greedy there. You saw the swirls coming off of her. That means she's tackling. Looks like she's doing the triple. She can always combo that into the regular or the tail flip. And it might be different one tail flip she can do. I think it's just a standard she runs and then does kind of a wide sweeping one. So don't get too comfortable and expect only a tackle, because you can be hit by the tail flip and be poisoned. That one doesn't point as an S though, but we were a little close. Throw that boomerang out, dodge to the right. Just tackling once more, so I'll actually try to dodge into that if she comes for us, but she does not. Dodge into that fireball, get away from this third one that I keep dodging into, but I didn't this time, which is good. Stay out of the way of the flame bite. Flame bite can hit you forward and a little bit to your left whenever she does that attack. It's going to be very similar for Silver Rathalos as well when he does it. So don't stand too close to it as well, because it can come from the side of the mouth. Your best bet is being around the neck area on the left side. That way you don't have to worry about being hit. Looks like she's leaving already. Not quite sure why, especially because she's enraged and not exhausted. So I'll meet you where she lands. And we're back here. I don't think there's a carcass in this area. There's a log, but that's for us to gather stuff from, not her. So I'm not quite sure why she immediately moved here. I don't really remember what the specific patterns she has for movement are in this particular map, just because I haven't practiced it very much. All right, boomerang out. Here comes the flip once more. That was a quick one. Okay, so sometimes she will do a quick one without much tail, and other times she'll wait a bit before she does it. I believe that's probably just to throw you off sometimes, and for adept users, that would probably certainly throw you off if you're not trying to position out of the way of it. But for us, it's probably generally safe if you know she's going to have the option of doing that to dodge first. I told you not to dodge first the first time. You would just try to run out of the way of it, because of the non-chance that she would actually do the quick one. But now that we know she can do the quick one, it's better to just dodge first, try to avoid that first one, and then try to position out of the way of the long one. If that makes any sense at all. I'm using a lot of words here and mixing them up all nicely. All right, finish to tackle. We'll punish that back there. Going into the air, which is really nice. We'll get some hovering hits. 2 more. Dodge to the left. Try to offset that. However, she does run in this direction. I hope you're not leaving again. I think she is exhausted, so we'll try to get this one out at the very least. Very good. Get a nice flinch too. Wanted to charge those, but it's fine if we don't. I did not mean to do that. I am fumbling the controls here. Alright, we'll try to be a little more precise. 2 boomerangs there. She's going to tackle. Charge, throw one out. Tackle into the land. We'll go ahead and mega boomerang here. That might be a really good hovering spot unless she charges, and then it won't be as good. But she's going to land here very slowly, so we'll actually be able to get another one out. I have a feeling she's probably going to enrage at some point. However, she tackled again. Okay, so we might trade hits here. I'm fine with that. Again, she's not dealing that much damage. You just don't want to get too comfortable with doing that because later on you'll be one-shot by those attacks. Okay, dodge into this. Stay away. And that attack actually does drag you if you do get an adept dodge off of it. It's a bit different than some of her attacks. Very nice. Go ahead and mega boomerang here. Over it in the back area. Depending on where you're at, you might actually hit the legs only. And that's why it's not always safe to do a second one, because she can just tackle you afterwards. Really need to get in a good position to not just constantly take hits, because I'm getting a little lax on that. Let her finish the triple tackle. Throw 1 boomerang out here, dodge to the left. There we go, good. Should be a finisher. Not with the tail flip, so that's good. 2 boomerangs there, dodge left. Looks like she's doing the lawnmower once more. I'm fine with that, honestly. Here comes the tail flip after the double tackle. I think I'm going to be greedy here. That's fine. There we go. Good. Go ahead and soothing roll here. That way I have some iframes and have a good chance to actually plan out what I'm doing. Reapply big. Dodge to the left. Go for some combos here on the back and the wings. Throw 1 more out. Was going to offset if she looked at me. However, she looked at Mhgu and Benkai, so we are fine. Okay, that's my bad. Did get pinned here, and something I have actually found in testing is that this does restore a little bit of HP, surprisingly. I have actually found ways to actually see that in the Japanese version of the game, because there are actually some codes you can actually see the health with of a monster, and you'll actually see that go up if someone gets pinned. So another reason to not get pinned. Pinned is also just not a fun thing to have. Because if you do have dung pods, then you do, or dung bombs, not dung pods, that's in world. But if you do have those, then you'll have to throw it on them, and that means they'll probably leave the area, which isn't great. You don't want to chase them around too much. But also, they'll restore a bit of HP depending on how long you actually stay there for, so that's not great either. Not sure how exhaustion plays into that. I'm sure they probably recover a bit of that as well, but HP is really the part you're worried about the most. Alright, back up here. Or a couple of boomerangs out. There we go, another nice one. Another mega boomerang out. I'm expecting probably less time than silver here. This is a bit greedy. This is why you don't want to just immediately throw that out. Thankfully, she didn't do a tail flip and hit us there. Just kind of stood there and the aerial tackle downwards. Dodge that. And as long as you dodge the flame bite there from that double attack, you should actually have enough iframes to outlast the tail flip as well. Even if you run straight into it. Not suggesting you run straight into it. You do want to just make sure you're out of the way of the hitbox anyways, but I think you should be safe for the most part. Unless you're like right at the tail end of the attack and it lingers a bit. Comes the tail flip up. Throw 2 more boomerangs out. Throw 1 more boomerang out. Dodge to the left. 2 more here. And she's leaving to the next area. Alright, so she came back to area 1, which I guess is nice. We don't have to move too much around the map. And we can get used to the areas that we're fighting in as well, so won't really complain about that. And it's not like these areas are bad to fight in either. I actually got a leg topple, surprisingly. I mean, you can tell that's what that was because she actually just fell over. She wasn't in the air. That's pretty cool. Hitting the face here, not much damage is coming from that, but we'll be able to punish this aerial flyback. Very good. Dodge forward. Doing that actual landing tackle once more. That was completely off in the wrong direction. Okay, careful. Wait here, and if you can on the tackles, try to get a double head turn, which would be one that's a bit more diagonal than just being straight cardinal directions, I think. That might be all of the directions. I don't remember exactly, but you'll want to try to get a double head turn. That way you have a little bit more time to prepare on what she's doing. All right, careful. You can see that little reposition step that she does. Which is really nice if you can actually get that to go off. It's a little bit less than making them turn all the way around, but it does require a little bit less effort. Here comes the tail flip. We're going to apply piercing here. Go ahead and throw a boomerang up. Dodge forward, punish this. Actually spin off to the side for a reposition. And charge one boomerang, throw it out. She's actually doing a tail flip. That shouldn't reach us. Go ahead and punish the back here, at least attempt to. Comes the landing. Two more boomerangs out. Dodge to the right. That way she has to reposition. She is limping, which is good. Similar to last time. Actually have a chance for sub 15 if I had all of the right gear for it. Remember, we're still using the worst thunder weapon. It's not worse by that much. And realistically, I have no idea where she's going. I guess I'll meet you there. All right, after a very long detour, she flew to a different area. I took the wrong path, and by the time I actually got there, she moved to this area where she tried to sleep, but she didn't sleep. But like I was saying before, realistically, there's not a terrible amount you gain from the Rathalos rod. You get purple sharpness, which will boost your element damage. I do believe the elemental values are the same on each weapon, which is pretty nice, and probably a little bit more raw damage from it. Purple sharpness isn't as strong in GU as it is in 4U and the games before it. So it's not as required, but it is just better numbers wise, pure numbers wise, and even on the field, it's just going to be better because they're both cutting weapons. And you don't have to really worry about doing anything else different to get more out of it. You're just going to be getting more out of it naturally. However, we're not making terrible time. The worst thing I did here was actually make that detour incorrectly, but you didn't even have to see that, which is good. Go ahead and apply piercing. And again, if you had weakness exploit, which may not actually be as useful here, but the 2-slot thunder skill for the DLC cats that you could have, along with ranged attack up and some other things, might actually boost your damage quite a bit along here. Maybe even enough to actually get a sub 15, because it certainly seems possible. I just wasn't punishing as enough, or as much as I could have been. And certainly because I'm not as experienced with the slower gold Rathian, it is something that is throwing me off a little bit more as well, as we can see here. Hold block, dodge forward, go for the back, hit a bit of the tail. Did not mean to dodge into that. That's fine though. We'll just dodge out of the way of that. Normally a well-placed dodge should actually just get you out of the way of the tail flip, but sometimes if she's tracking you enough, then you can't really rely on that. Either way, there is gold Rathian. Not too terrible at all. I'll go ahead and carve up and meet you back at base. All right, we're back to the hub. Let me go ahead and show you those rare species weapons. Yeah, there's not any. Cats have never actually gotten rare species equipment or subspecies equipment. Not as noticeable here because there are no subspecies in GU, but in the other games, you do not get subspecies or rare species equipment, which is very unfortunate for the game you can play as cats in, because that would really be helpful. Silver Rathalos would probably be a purple sharpness fire weapon, which would be really nice. I believe the only one of those you get is Glavinus, which is actually a bit behind if I can find it here. Okay, so the only ones I have unlocked are the 180 raw ones with white sharpness. I want to say that maybe the Glavinus Sword XR might have purple sharpness, but it's not that good. Certainly wouldn't be as good as a rare species armor. And another thing is rare species armor would be really nice for defense as well. I think Gold Rathian would probably be similar to what I'm thinking the world ones are, which would be high raw, white sharpness, decent affinity, and decent amount of poison as well. Just kind of help you along, which would be really nice. Some other rare species and not subspecies. There's no subspecies in this game if that wasn't obvious enough already. But I'll go over the other weird monsters that don't actually get Prowler equipment or Palico equipment either, and maybe go after what they would be. Because, again, it'd be really nice to have some more weapons to maybe help push us along. And even just be some side grades to be like, okay, this one's better for element, and this one's better for monsters that are weaker to raw, but are still weak to fire, or something like that. Bit of a missed opportunity, but at the very least, we did get deviant equipment. So I guess it's not the end of the world. It just would be nice to have more options. Either way, that's it for today. I'm not doing the double quest because that will probably take its own time. Actually took quite a bit of time already for those two. So we'll deal with that when we cross it. Quest is called The Sun and the Moon, has us hunting them at the ruined pinnacle. Get used to that. And I'll see that at some point, probably. Again, I don't want to burn out too much on these monsters because they actually do have you fight them quite a bit. Either way, hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a comment below and maybe even consider subscribing. Until next time, bye.